Have you ever wondered why Death Incarnate kinda looks like a Shy Guy? Or if the translated script features swear words in any other languages? What happens next may shock you. Let's talk about some of the oddities in Super Mario RPG's translation. Let's start with everyone's favorite mystery. Why is Exor's mouth called Neosquid in English, but called mouth in every other language? While no one, not even the game's English translator, Ted Woolsey, knows the answer for sure, I have a theory. First off, Neosquids are a real thing. They look like this. In the data for enemy formations, there are a few unused groups that have Exor's right eye, along with some bandana reds. These formations are found right in between the formations for Johnny and King Calamari. Now keep in mind that back in these days, the translator often didn't get the full picture of what the game looked like. They would translate names and phrases without much context. He would also have no way of knowing which formations would be used in the final product. Also remember how the King Calamari fight is structured. You face a couple batches of tentacles, separate from the rest of him, and then the main head and body. It could be that he saw the right eye mixed in with these sunken ship enemies, and assumed that Exor's facial pieces were additional pieces of King Calamari, that you could target separately, just like the tentacles. Plus, if you took away his battlefield and the pipe he hides in, it may not be immediately clear which end of King Calamari is up. I could see how someone would look at this and think, some pieces are missing. And thus, Neosquid was born. While Exor's mouth obviously has nothing to do with King Calamari, here's what it would have looked like if— oh jeez. In the North American version, Rocco calls Mario a persistent bugger. While bugger is a fairly innocuous term in the US, it's considered an offensive word in the UK. The PAL version of the game changes bugger to pest. To help American audiences understand what bugger means to our friends overseas, here is that same scene retranslated. Mac's name is a reference to Mac the Knife, a song dating back to the 1920s and was a popular choice for artists to cover for decades. It's also a play on the fact that Mac resembles a knife. A knife is basically a small sword. If Exor is a regular-sized sword, then Mac certainly qualifies as a small one. The remake calls him Clay Morton, a combination of the name Morton and the word Claymore, which is a large two-handed sword. Here's the big question: which is correct? The original Japanese script calls him something close to Sword Soul or Blade Soul, something that doesn't really flow well as a name in English. So, to be fair, neither translation is correct. You'll have to search your Blade Soul on this one. Punchinello is called Peppato, which is an anagram of the Japanese Pappetto, meaning puppet. Ted Woolsey wanted to name him James Bomb, a reference to his penchant for explosives and international super spy James Bond. While management nixed that name, it's still referenced in his opening speech. Somehow, at the end of the day, we ended up with Punchinello. Punchinello is a stock character from Italian theater described as a clown-like, grotesque puppet. Close enough? Also, if you save this toad during Mac's invasion, he says he's shaken but not stirred, a reference to how Bond prefers his drinks prepared. Woolsey got that Bond reference in there one way or another. While the bottom layer of the cake was always raspberry, Bun's top layer is called strawberry in Japanese. For years I've been saying raspberry is a weird flavor to be on a cake. I'm only semi-vindicated. A video about translations wouldn't be complete without mentioning Yaridovich. This one's probably a bit more common knowledge by now, but Yari is the Japanese word for spear. The remake calls him Speardovich, which is technically the correct translation. But just because something is correct doesn't make it right, you know? Valentina is called Margarita, which probably references her drink of choice, which she holds in paddle, which is clearly her most notable trait. In Japanese, the Tsar Dragon is called the Kaiser Dragon. Funny enough, Final Fantasy VI originally had an unused enemy in its files called the Tsar Dragon. In Final Fantasy VI Advance, this unused Tsar Dragon was added as a super boss called Kaiser Dragon. What's more, when Tsar Dragon dies, it becomes Zombone. There's a similar enemy in the Super Nintendo version of Final Fantasy VI called, you guessed it, Zombone. Although it's called Zombie Dragon in subsequent releases. Gee, it's almost like these two games were worked on by the same people.
Say that again?
The Axum Rangers are a parody of a Japanese TV series called Super Sentai. This series is the basis for the American Power Rangers. The Blade's psychopath message was changed to "It's a melee," which doesn't mean much, but the Japanese version says, "Come on, just use me from the start." This pokes fun at a question fans of the Power Rangers and Super Sentai have often wondered. Why don't they use their super strong mech weapons at the beginning of the battle instead of waiting until the end? The Axum Rangers are called the Axe Force in Japanese. At least they're supposed to be. The Super Mario RPG trading card incorrectly lists them as Axe Hose. Exor is Kaliba, as in Excalibur, like the famous sword in the stone. After all, what is Bowser's Keep but an enormous stone? With Gunyoke, it seems like it was a free-for-all in terms of translators coming up with a name. While the Japanese name is a play on the term Last Dungeon, other languages have their own names. Check these out. When you defeat his final form, Smithy says, "Guo." I always thought this was him groaning in pain from the beating I just gave him, but guo actually means something in Japanese. It's a sound effect for sort of a low rumbling or a roar. This would let the player know that the battlefield is supposed to be shaking, or maybe that Smithy is supposed to be making some kind of roaring noise because he's dying. You know, in case the violently shaking screen didn't clue you in. Koopa Troopas are called Noko Nokos in Japanese. This is where Knock Knock Shell comes from. Terrapins are called Nokohei, which is a combo of Noko Noko and Hei, meaning soldier. Terracottas are called Red Nokohei. Not the most creative name, but it makes sense. The chefs are called Nokoku, from the word koku, meaning cook. Cute, right? Jagger is called Nokoyan, which is a combination of Nokohei and Yang from Final Fantasy IV. Culex isn't the only Monstro Town reference to a Final Fantasy title. Frogog is called Richard. Richard is a character from the game The Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls for the Game Boy, which was released exclusively in Japan. Richard is a prince who gets turned into a frog. Poor guy. But hey, if Richard is such a great character, why didn't they make a Richard 2? Oh. Shy Guys are called Heiho, meaning foot soldier. Sling Shies are called Hi Heiho, meaning high shy guy, as in superior shy guy. Shy Rangers are called Army Shy Guys. Not the cleverest name, but it gets the point across. Shysters are called Heipa, which is probably supposed to be a play on the word hyper. While Shipers are called Heipawas, which is a combination of Heipa and power. Greepers are called Reiho, a combo of ghost and Heiho. Yes, these are Shy Guy ghosts you're killing. Well, they're ghosts, so you're killing them again? Glum Reaper is called Yoro Reiho, which follows a similar naming convention, but it's not clear if it has a deeper meaning beyond that, although it does kind of sound like someone yodeling. The Hobgoblin enemy is called Pierre in Japanese. I'm not sure why a Japanese character would have a French name, but it shares its name with Pierre from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, who is also a scarecrow. Whether there's a reason for this, or if it's a very odd coincidence, I couldn't tell you. But wait, Ocarina of Time has another scarecrow character named Bonnaroo. Maybe the other scarecrow enemy in this game is... Oh, I guess not. Piranha plants are called pakun flowers. Chewies are called pakun blue. Though they are clearly green, the term blue used here can also refer to the coloring of a healthy plant. Chomps are called wanwans, and the chomp chomp enemy is called wansu, which is supposed to sound like 1-2. It's funny, guys. Pulsars are called rupees, as in The Legend of Zelda's rupees. I can kinda see it. Lakitus are called jugemus, hence why the Nimbusland Royal Bus has the initials JB on them, which stands for Jugemu's Bus. The bus driver is just a really large Lakitu. Bahamut is called Doshi, which is a combo of dragon and Yoshi. I covered that in greater detail in a previous video, but I will add that Doshi shares its name with Dory of Super Mario 64 fame, which tells me Dory is meant to be some sort of aquatic Yoshi relative. Caro is the sound that a frog makes. The English equivalent would be ribbit or croak. Tadpole Pond is called Caro Caro Lake, as a reference to that sound and the creatures that live there. Similarly, Rose Way is called Carose, as a combination of Caro and Rose, to signify that it's in between the two locations. The Caro sewers are called Kino Caro sewers for a similar reason. Toad is called Kinopio in Japanese, so Kino Caro denotes that this is the area between the Caro area and the Kinopio area. This is also why the remake calls the Caro Caro Cola Croca-Cola. The forest maze is named Hana-chan Forest. This is a Hana-chan. Wigglers got their street cred removed in the English release. No wonder they get angry so easily. Moleville is called Ducati. This could be a combination of the word dokan, which is the Japanese word for the sound of an explosion, and the English word city, so something like Kaboom City, which would make sense given how many bombs show up in the mines. Or it could be that whoever named this place really likes Ducati. Who knows? Booster Pass is called Iga Valley. Iga is the Japanese onomatopoeia for something prickly or thorny. Given the number of prickly and thorny enemies you find here, it makes sense. Plus, earlier media shows that there was going to be cactus enemies that were likely supposed to appear in this area that never made it to the final product. Nothing pricklier than a cactus. I can understand the logic behind naming it after Booster, but at the same time, I think Prickly Pass would have sounded cute. Booster is called Buki in Japanese. His tower and hill are named accordingly. This is why his reception desk says BK on it. Marymore is called Merry Merry Village. Both translations are cute, and I think they both get the point across. Land's End is simply called Country Road. While a little generic, it does make sense since the land doesn't actually end there. Bean Valley is beyond it. Plus, we all know how scared of lawsuits Nintendo is, so maybe that's why these country roads can't take us home. Nimbus Land is called Marshmallow Land, which makes the connection to our favorite fluffball that much clearer. Toad is called Kinopio in Japanese. Kinopio is a combination of he, meaning fire, and Kinopio. Toadovsky is called Kinokovsky, which is a combo of Kinopio and that same "ovsky" suffix, which pays tribute to the famous composer Tchaikovsky. In Japan, Boshi is called Washi. This is a portmanteau of Warui, meaning bad, and Yoshi. Can you think of any other characters that use the same wa prefix? Chancellor is called Minister in Japanese. This solidifies the theory that the Minister from Paper Mario is the same character as the Chancellor. Since the Minister's hair is gray while the Chancellor's still has color, we can infer that Super Mario RPG takes place before Paper Mario. Another piece of the continuity puzzle falls into place. Although, I guess hair dye is a thing, so never mind. I've always wondered where the name Batub Ring comes from. The Japanese translation is Love Love Ring. That answered nothing. On a related note, Toadstool's polka dress is called Love Love Dress. Jump shoes are called spin shoes, which, like I mentioned in a prior video, is a reference to Super Mario World. Lazy shell is called overweight pata shell, patas being sky troopas, and heavy troopas are called overweight patas. It was always pretty obvious that lazy shell is a heavy troopa shell, but this confirms it. I would be remiss if I didn't mention heel shell. This name never made any sense, since this shell doesn't heal Bowser in any way. It was likely supposed to be the word heel, which means a bad guy or antagonist, a description which fits Bowser very well. The remake finally cleared this up. Some items have different names too. Check it out. Apparently Red Essence is like the Mountain Dew Code Red of Yoshi aids. The stuff you can buy off the frog in Seaside Town all have some good names too. The translator had an unusual fascination with using the word drain in enemy spells. There's Drain, the little fireball attack, whose original name is simply Fireball or Fire Sphere. Maybe he didn't want the name to sound too similar to Mario's Fire Orb attack? There's also Mega Drain, whose Japanese name is Lightsaber. I'll give you one guess why that one needed to be changed. Then there's Drain Beam, which is called Pain Spout in the remake. The original spell is just a column of blue magic-looking stuff, while the remake is clearly more water-like. Bowser's Crusher spell is interesting in that almost every language has their own spin on what they call it. Take a look. Most spells have pretty spot-on translations, like Fireball becoming Fire Orb, or Jump becoming, you guessed it, Jump. But Toadstool's spells all have a bit more character in their original Japanese. Sleepy Time is called Sleep Well, Good Child, which is the name of a commonly known lullaby in Japan. Therapy is called Pain Fly Away, which is a common expression similar to the English saying, there, when comforting someone. Group hug is called Everyone Cheer Up, and mute is Zip Your Lip. Psychopath is called What Are They Thinking? Most of the translated psychopath messages are vastly different from their original Japanese. There's the gorilla enemy who normally says not to mistake him for someone else, but the Japanese version reads more like a legal disclaimer. Or the Goombets, which reference Teddy Roosevelt for some reason. Or even that this Magic Koopa is definitely supposed to be Kamek, as a reference to Yoshi's Island, which I've brought up before and won't rehash. But the more interesting fact is that many of the original psychopath messages are Japanese pop culture references, including media such as Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon. I won't delve too deeply into that, but Legends of Localization has a great article explaining these references in greater detail. You should check it out. Keep in mind that just because a translation deviates from the source material a bit doesn't make it bad. Sometimes translations add character. Great Guy and Knife Guy would have been older and younger clown bros. Great Guy is the younger one, by the way. While Jester's card moves like Wild Card and Full House are simply called Card Toss and Card Rain. Languages have nuances to them that often don't come across well if you simply translate the words directly one for one. A translator's job is to make sure some of that character, those inside jokes that only make sense in certain languages, come through in the translated language. A job I think Ted Woolsey did pretty well. While you ponder on that, here are various translations in other languages that I thought were worth mentioning.